In a world of luxury makeup, pricing isn't just a number, it also influences how we perceive and value products, brands, and services. Recently, Patrick Ta's $42 eyeshadows sparked controversy, with people questioning whether the price is actually reasonable or greedy, and if Patrick Ta can actually be considered a luxury brand. But on the contrary, Urban Decay has been able to find success selling one eyeshadow single for $24 without the same backlash. So how come some of us perceive one product as overpriced while the other is acceptable? In this video, I'm going to answer that exact question, but also dive into what people are saying, why pricing matters, why the product is considered overpriced, the perception of luxury, and Patrick Ta's response. They're all going to be timestamped, so feel free to skip around. Hi everyone, my name is Elle if you're new here, and I want to help you revive your love for beauty while also discussing its trends, products, and industry practices from a marketing and shopping point of view. In a society where beauty is often criticized, I really want to help you find this healthy balance between embracing your love for beauty and being thoughtful of the impact it has on your wallet and the world around us. So whether you're a makeup collector or beauty minimalist, you are welcome to join this conversation. But before you do, I want to make it clear that this video is not meant to hate on Patrick Ta as an individual or a makeup artist. I respect his creativity, his talent, and success in the beauty industry. This is truly more about discussing the pricing choices and how they fit into this larger conversation around consumer perceptions. I also want to keep in mind that his name is attached to the brand, so in a lot of ways they do intertwine, so I can't really separate the two, but this video is going to be more of a deep dive into the marketing and branding of it all rather than a drama commentary video. When this product was first announced on Trend Mood and Patrick Ta's Instagram page, there was actually a lot of excitement over it, specifically from me too. I'm definitely the target market for this type of product. It launched in 5 different shades and just in time for the holiday season. These shimmering eyeshadows were right on trend and seemed to be exactly what his audience was asking for. The initial reaction for this launch was positive, saying these are beautiful, give me 14 of them, OMG I need, I pray they're not overpriced, that's it, I want them all, and lots of heart eye emojis. But that didn't last for long. People quickly turned as soon as they learned that the price was $42 US. They said things like, well, glad to see that myself and nobody else in the comments will be purchasing. These are beautiful, but these brands need to get a grip. They'll keep charging what we allow them to charge. So sorry, but it's a no. That looks pretty, but the question is, will there be mold again? $42, was it a typo and they meant 24? And this one got me thinking. They said $42 is not tethered to reality. Super pretty, but also $42 in this economy? I wish you could mix and match them. I'd have the taupe and the bright white. I don't want to spend nearly $100 to use half the shades. I was planning on picking up one duo, but OMFG $42? I might just get a Rabanne eyeshadow duo. I swatched them last week and they were simply stunning. And I was definitely one of those people in my criticizing new makeup releases video. I'm just gonna say what we're all thinking right now. $42 for 2 eyeshadows? It's insane. As you can tell, pricing played a major role in the perception of this product launch. One minute shoppers are very excited and the next minute they completely change their mind. And then people started asking, after all these complaints, why are people complaining?
If you own this, you cannot complain about these. Now, I've seen reviews and honestly, these look stunning. Besides the price point, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with them. And for that reason alone, we shouldn't be complaining because Patrick Ta is a luxury brand. So expect luxury pricing. That is all.
Saying things like, if you can't afford it, just don't buy it. Patrick Ta eventually made a response to all of this backlash, which we'll dive into a little bit more towards the end. But long story short, he explained that the quality, the formula was competitive to everything else on the market. And before I do a deep dive, just to give myself a little bit more credibility here, I did buy the Patrick Ta eyeshadow duos. I have it. I bought it during the sale for 20% off. I personally think that this fit what I've been searching for, and that's why it works for me. I have a lot of eyeshadow toppers, eyeshadow singles, but most of them are like silver glitter toppers, and I've been searching for a gold glitter topper, and I haven't been able to find a lot of those. So when I saw this, I knew I was going to buy it. Again, I am the target market for this. So I'm coming from the perspective as someone who appreciates a sparkly, shiny, glittery thing, someone who's willing to pay a little bit more for what they want. But I did swatch all the other shades in the store, and I have to tell you, they're inconsistent and not all the same for $42. When I swatched them in the store, when you just do one swatch, they looked like the Urban Decay Moondust eyeshadows, which to me was disappointing because I've already had the Moondust eyeshadows. I don't need repeats of them. There were only two duos that I felt were potentially worth the splurge because swatched on my hand, they were the most reflective and pearly of them all. It's the one that I bought. Do you know who I am? And the taupey, grungy, silvery one called Still at the Club. I considered buying that one and I still think about it every day. I'm not gonna lie. But I have so many alternatives to that in my collection that is just as sparkly. So that wouldn't have been the best purchase. If I do buy that purchase, it's because I just want it. No other excuse. But it wouldn't be unique in my collection, and I'd be paying $42 for something that I already probably own in my makeup collection. The few weeks I've been using this, I have this on my eyes today, but I have to tell you, one eye is a different eyeshadow, the other eye is Patrick Ta, and they look identical. This is Patrick Ta. And this is not Patrick Ta. But they're just as reflective and just as sparkly. I coincidentally recently bought an eyeshadow quad from Dupes, which is a K-beauty brand, and this has 4 different shimmery toppers. Kind of reminds me of the Urban Decay eyeshadow quad that I just bought during the Sephora sale, but they are 2 different sizes, as you can see. This is a size compared to the palm of my hand. This is a size compared to the palm of my hand, right? Okay. I didn't buy this to be a dupe of the Patrick Ta. I bought this because I loved it and I thought it was gorgeous, and I love a good toppery shimmer formula, obviously. But then I swatched this right here, which is very much giving me the slurry vibe and formula, the bottom right here of the Patrick Ta duo. On top of that, the Dupes palette is also made in Italy. And for those of you who care about ingredients, I did kind of cross-reference the one shade in the Dupes palette with the Do You Know Who I Am ingredient list. They are different formulas and concentrations of certain ingredients, but there are also some overlapping ingredients. So you can feel free to pause. Again, I'm not an expert on ingredients, so you're just gonna have to look at it for yourself. But no matter what the ingredients are, when I feel both of them in person, they're fairly similar to each other. The only thing is that the Dupes eyeshadow has a slightly different tone, maybe more of a pinkier tone, but on the eyes, you can't really see that much of a difference. It does have slight green reflect to it, but on my eyes, you don't really notice it. The Patrick Ta duo, this top one right here, I'm gonna show you a close-up, almost identical. And they are just as shimmery, just as sparkly, just as reflective on the eyes. This little quad right here was $20 on sale. I think the original price is $25. I would rather have it smaller and more compact because I have a better chance of finishing it. I would have been happy if this duo was a single. I would have been happy to just pay $24 for it, $21 for it, to just buy the single. What I don't really like about this product and what makes it overpriced for me is that I'm forced to buy 2 shades that I didn't pick out. If it was like the Urban Decay Moondust, I picked out one for $12 on sale. Happy with it. Didn't like the other shade, so wasn't forced to buy them. This, I'm forced to buy the gold shade. I don't hate, but I could have done without. On top of that, I wanted the other duo, which is Still at the Club. I wanted 1 shade in that and 1 shade in here. So if I wanted to get both, I'd be forced to buy 4, which will make it $84. And just to be fair, the Dupes palette comes with 4, so they're forcing me to buy 4 different eyeshadows for $25 or $27, but it's still significantly cheaper, so that bothers me less than having to buy 2 eyeshadows with more product when I will always prefer one over the other. And again, the price is $42 versus paying $27 for 4 small eyeshadows. Again, that's all a matter of preference, but for me, that's what I would prefer. Is it nice? Yes. Is it reflective? Yes. Is it unique? No, it is not unique. And if you are someone who has been eyeing this and you want something that is truly a better value, this is a better value. You can get this at YESSTYLE. I do have a code to get up to like 5% off. Plus, there are like codes floating around to get another 15% off. It takes a little bit longer for shipping, but this is gorgeous. This is gorgeous too. I have both of these on my eyes. You probably cannot tell what side is which. They also have the same amount of fallout problem. So at the end of the day, I think it's all based on what you're looking for, what you're searching for, what works for your preferences. That is something that I value on this channel, is to shop for your preferences. Don't shop for what I prefer, shop for what you prefer. And if you want something that's bigger, you like both of the shades in here, then it's gonna be better for you. But if you want alternatives, there's always gonna be alternatives for Patrick Ta. There's no denying it. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you find the best products, and either or would be fine. But I can't lie and tell you that this is the most unique thing I've ever seen for $42, because it's not. Now that you know what I think about the eyeshadow duos, let's go ahead and get into the deep dive. So why does pricing matter so much? Why did people switch from their excitement about this product to then bashing the product and threatening not to buy it? And how did it cause so much controversy? Right now, people are being more critical of what they buy, especially in the US. With the rising cost of living and economic uncertainty, many of us are questioning not just what we buy, but how much we really need. With tighter budgets, there's less room for impulse buys and unnecessary spending. The conversation around overconsumption has also been a very hot topic on the internet, so much so, under consumption core, no buys, low buys have become an ongoing trend in 2024. And according to a 2024 McKinsey report, they said what consumers want is changing too. Weakened brand loyalty, affordability over sustainability, and heightened interest in wellness products and services reflect the preferences and priorities of consumers across ages and geographies. To simplify it even more, shoppers are changing the way they spend their money. People are less willing to pay extra just because of a brand's name. Instead, they want good products at lower prices, and expensive and luxury brands that used to be able to charge higher prices are now being watched a lot more closely. Shoppers are paying attention to how they spend their money and are searching for equal or better alternatives, hence the trend of makeup dupes. And in my personal opinion, based off of what I do as a content creator, I noticed we have become a lot smarter with marketing. We can see right through it. At this point, I feel like it's just a lot harder to trick people and manipulate people into buying products, especially because there's been a lot of resources exposing overconsumption, like the newest Buy Now Netflix documentary. But this trend doesn't just apply to Patrick Ta's eyeshadows, it's happening across the entire beauty industry. I feel like Patrick Ta's eyeshadows were just the last straw. Now, as a content creator, my audience also comes from all kinds of income backgrounds, so ignoring the role that price plays in purchasing decisions, to me, would be considered tone deaf. The higher the price, the more critical people will be about whether it's worth it. And when I'm talking and reviewing products, I really want to keep that in mind. To pretend that pricing doesn't matter is a privilege in itself, especially if you are receiving the product for free. Pricing has always been and will always be a key factor in how brands make money and how we as consumers shop and view those brands. So why is it problematic that people are considering Patrick Ta's eyeshadow duos to be expensive? It all really comes down to how we think about prices and the psychology of pricing. Some argue nobody complained about the Urban Decay Moondust eyeshadows being overpriced, but that's not entirely true. While the conversation was probably a lot more quieter, many people, including myself, always felt that both brands were pricey. I didn't buy the Urban Decay Moondust eyeshadow until it was on a sale. Sometimes, actually a lot of times, it goes on sale for half the price for $12. I also didn't buy the Patrick Ta eyeshadow duos until it went on sale during the Sephora sale. Although I am the target market for this and I am someone who really enjoys high-end, high-quality makeup products, I no longer look past pricing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the audience that I have comes from a variety of different income backgrounds, which may affect what they consider to be pricey or affordable. When people think something is expensive, it really depends on a variety of factors, like how much money they make, where they come from. For example, some people may consider something expensive if it costs around 5 to 10% of the money they have left after covering their basic needs. For instance, if you have $500 remaining after paying for your bills, a product priced between $25 and $50, which is 5 to 10% of $500, might feel costly to you. Now, let's say two people have the same income or budget. Why would one person think that the eyeshadow duo is expensive when getting two eyeshadows is actually a better deal than buying just one? Well, Patrick Ta also has larger products that cost less being sold within his own brand. For example, before Patrick Ta even released his eyeshadow duos, he launched a blush duo for $38 and an eyeshadow palette for $70. Even though these are different products and the eyeshadows may cost more to make, I know someone's going to argue that in the comments, the previous pricing sets our expectation, and anything lower or higher may or may not seem reasonable based on this. So because of price anchoring, some people don't think that the eyeshadow duo is actually a good deal, even though it is competitive to the pricing of other brands. Now, when it comes to value, everyone also sees value differently. The problem is when people see a bundle, they might actually expect it to be cheaper than buying the item separately. For example, when they see this duo with two eyeshadows, they want it to be a lot cheaper than buying two single eyeshadows, like the Urban Decay eyeshadow for $24. And if you buy two of those, the total cost is going to be $48. But if you buy one duo from Patrick Ta, it's going to be $42. So even though the pricing makes sense when you look at the Patrick Ta duos closely, it feels overpriced because some people expect the bundles to cost significantly less. $21 per eyeshadow versus $24 per eyeshadow is only a $3 difference. Another major discussion within this controversy is if Patrick Ta can actually be considered a luxury brand. Luxury plays a big part in this conversation. In my opinion, luxury is simply just marketing, and there's no exact definition. It kind of reminds me of the term clean beauty. Every brand, every store defines clean beauty differently. So what might be luxury to you might not be luxury to me. And because there are so many factors, there are going to be different perceptions as to what is actually luxury. As someone who has worked in marketing, I just think that luxury is a made-up term to get people to spend more money. I said what I said. So where's the discrepancy? Can Patrick Ta actually call his brand luxury? Welcome to the comment checkpoint. Let me know in the comments below if you would consider Patrick Ta a luxury brand and see if Patrick Ta's brand matches up with it. I also want to note that in this section, I am comparing Patrick Ta to more traditional luxury factors in a general sense to explain why people might disagree with Patrick Ta as a luxury brand. But if you have more of a modern perception of luxury, you'll likely see it differently. So I'm first going to get price point out of the way because that is the most obvious factor in a luxury brand. It is no secret that luxury makeup and beauty is expensive. Luxury brands usually have prestige pricing. This is when they set high prices to make their products appear more luxurious and exclusive, targeting a select group of people who can afford them. Patrick Ta uses a strategy to enhance the perceived value of his products and has perfected this approach with his recent product launches. And to add to this point, I also noticed that he rarely offers sales on his websites. Even during major events like Black Friday, he only offered a free gift, which is common for a lot of luxury brands because if they throw a lot of sales, it changes the perception on if the brand is actually luxury. But I feel like for the strategy to actually succeed, people need to genuinely believe that your brand is luxurious. It's also going to take a little bit of extra work to convince people to pay that price tag. So while there are some people that believe Patrick Ta's products are worth the price, other people's need a little bit more to justify that price. So for this, I'm gonna give Patrick Ta a green flag. It definitely is positioned to be a luxury price. Another way brands try to justify their pricing for luxury is through high quality ingredients and packaging. Patrick Ta has mentioned that his eyeshadow duos are made of a slurry formula containing 100% pearl pigment, insinuating that it cost more to make. I'm obviously not an expert on this, so I'm gonna share with you Javon Ford, who is a cosmetic chemist.
Even though it is $42, this is one of the most beautiful textures of glitter that I own. I mentioned that these are made in Italy and they're 100% pearl. And then I remembered I bought this at YCon in Italy. Not saying it's a dupe, but the textures are really, really similar. So there's a potential maybe they're made in the same lab. Eyeshadow retails for $12 and these are $42 for 2 eyeshadows. They look side by side. High quality glitter eyeshadows are really expensive to make. What I am curious about from a cosmetic chemistry perspective is why is this only $12 and this $42?
Simple answer is because that's the price point they wanted to target. Most of Patrick Ta's products are in the $35 to $45 range, with this one of course being $42. And the justification given is that this is 100% pure pearl. Now, most of the pearls in this line are made of a substrate called calcium titanium borosilicate, which is a glass-like pearl that gives it that very brilliant sheen. And borosilicate is more expensive than mica, the usual substrate for pearls, partly because it's not reliant on child labor. However, mica is still the main ingredient in many of the pearls. Plus, this isn't technically pure pigment if there are other substances like squalane and water in the formula. It is predominantly pigment, but it's not 100% pure pigment. Also, there's a typo with this ingredient list. It looks longer than it actually is. This is the actual ingredient list once you remove the duplicates. The reason this is $42 is the same reason Dior's lip oil is $40. They're both selling you a luxury experience. Packaging, of course, plays a role, but it's not the end-all be-all because most of Patrick Ta's products use the same packaging. And of course, not every price point is for everybody. To those who've purchased this, do you feel like this is worth $42? As a chemist, no. What about you as a consumer?
And actually just concluded it's priced that way not because of the ingredients, but simply because Patrick Ta is trying to position his brand as luxury. On the other hand, some influencers like the lipstick lesbians showed issues with the product, such as it falling out of the pan.
How did his slurry fall out of the case? Patrick Ta's been having a rough year.
Patrick has been having a rough year, man. So here she is. Do you know who I am is the shade that I had, like, man down. Notice here, it cleanly comes out. This is a slurry formula. Only one fell. It's totally common. It is a more delicate manufacturing procedure, and the pearls make the product more delicate.
And they explained that the high price was due to the costly formula and packaging.
These are pearls. There's questions floating around the internet right now. Is it worth the price point? Well, it's always up to you, beauty queens, to decide on your budget. But these high shine pearls are expensive. That's why it's priced this way. This is like that wet look. That wet look is signature of a slurry, and it's designed this way in the manufacturing to achieve it. And then what we have underneath is a slightly different wet effect. It's going to be just as shiny but a different tone, and they vary a little bit in how sheer they are. All the duos in themselves have their own special uniqueness in terms of shimmer value and pearl value, but do know pearls are super expensive. Think of Pat McGrath palettes, even think of Danessa Myricks palettes. Pearls drive cost. Not all pearls are created equal. This manufacturing procedure is different than Pat McGrath's, is different than Danessa's. You will get a similar effect. But if you touch all three next to each other in Sephora, you will feel that at the very base of these, and even in the way that they pull up on your fingers when you're swatching, you're going to experience the nuance of the texture. And that's where you get to decide what fits in your budget and what fits for your needs. For me personally, there's value in all of them. Ultimately, I would use all three for different reasons at different times.
Now, opinions on packaging style might vary, but there's also no denying that his product packaging is intended to look and feel high quality. It has this polished and aesthetic design comparable to other luxury brands, so I would give him a yes for packaging, whether you think it's luxurious or not. The intent is there. But with that being said, his products have had quality issues in the past, such as packaging issues and reports of moldy eyeshadow palettes, allegedly. Overall, from my experience, the quality of Patrick Ta's products can be inconsistent, so I wouldn't give them a full green light for quality, especially because the Lipstick Lesbians video shows the eyeshadow falling out of the pan, and when you're paying $42, I don't care what kind of formula it is or how it's prone to doing that. I just don't think that that is quality. So I'm gonna give this like a beige flag because it has one but not the other. Another factor that plays into luxury branding is exclusivity. A product becomes more exclusive when it is harder to get or meant for a special group of people. Luxury brands competing with Patrick Ta are typically sold at stores like Neiman Marcus and Saks, which mainly attract wealthy shoppers. More than half of their sales come from people earning over $150,000 a year. Currently, Patrick Ta's products are sold only only at Sephora and on patrickta.com. From what I see, in the US, Sephora shoppers have an average income of about $98,437, and over a third of their online customers are aged 25 to 34, but most shoppers at high-end stores like Saks and Neiman Marcus are over 35 and have higher spending power. Although this data doesn't fully consider all the nitty-gritty details like online versus in-store shopper data, most of it is behind a paywall, so I'm gonna make a general comparison. Patrick Ta is currently, from this data, attracting a younger high-income audience at Sephora, but if his products were sold in high-end department stores like Saks and Neiman Marcus, it may add to the luxury perception of the brand. It would also reach an older audience with higher incomes who are more likely to accept the value of his exclusive pricing. I also think age matters when it comes to what people think is luxury. Someone in their mid-20s might see Patrick Ta as luxury, but someone over 35 might compare it to bigger, well-known brands like Hermes or Chanel. Overall, Patrick Ta has done a decent job at creating exclusivity through pricing. However, by expanding into high-end stores, it could become a more recognized luxury brand, especially to an older generation. And to stay on track with the point of exclusivity playing a role in luxury, I think that Patrick Ta's brand can have a green flag for this one because they are only being sold online and in-store at Sephora, and his high pricing makes the brand more exclusive technically. Whether it's a good or bad thing for the brand, especially in the case of inclusivity in beauty, that's going to be a whole different conversation. Speaking of brands that are in high-end department stores like Saks and Neiman Marcus, luxury brands often offer personal services like consultations or makeovers. Now, Patrick Ta does technically offer these services through being sold at Sephora. However, I do think that the experience at Sephora is different from what you'd get at a counter in a high-end department store, because at these department stores, the service is often a lot more personal. These workers are also usually specially trained to know the brand inside and out, versus at Sephora, it's a mixture of self-serve. And to be clear, I don't think a Sephora employee compared to a luxury counter employee is better than the other, but I'm specifically saying at Sephora, the knowledge of their employees may vary more because there are so many brands. It is also overall more self-serve, so you're likely to get less personal one-on-one interactions at Sephora or more quicker interactions. Rather than at a counter, the employee is trained to know one brand's products inside and out, which can provide you a more personalized, longer one-on-one experience. So in terms of training and required customer service, the experiences between the two are going to be slightly different. With that being said, I think that with the internet and how we shop online, it plays a major factor in what really is considered luxury now, because the experience at the counter used to play a major factor into that luxury experience, but now that there's online shopping, it's a bit different. So that could be more of the old-fashioned way of luxury, but I am going to give it a red flag because when we talk about like traditional luxury brands, I don't think he's quite there yet. Returning to the idea of how age plays a role in luxury, many of these traditional long-standing luxury brands have been around for decades or even centuries. So in contrast, Patrick Ta is still fairly a newer brand and doesn't have that same history or established reputations like older luxury brands like Chanel or Dior, but one would also argue Patrick Ta has his own reputation as a makeup artist because he has worked with luxury brands like La Mer. So I think it really kind of depends on how you look at luxury or how you look at luxury makeup brands. Personally, I think that in terms of brand heritage and reputation, he has a reputation down as a makeup artist, but the brand still hasn't made that establishment of long-standing luxury yet, so I'm gonna give it a red flag on this one. The current marketing and advertising for Patrick Ta's brand aims to create this luxurious feel, but their social media focuses more on leveraging his persona as a celebrity makeup artist and influencer, which I would say is different from that traditional strategy used by luxury brands. Because of this, if you want to give the Patrick Ta brand some credit, they could be trying to change how people think about luxury or perceive luxury. But on the other hand, I don't think it's fully aligning with that typical image of a luxury brand just yet. And although he has high prices and aesthetic packaging, his current marketing efforts on social media, such as following following trends and using TikTok sounds, along with his response to this controversy, may contribute to why some people don't see the brand as prestigious. Now, I don't think there's really anything wrong with this strategy. I think it works for a lot of brands and helps them sell products, but I do think it plays a huge role in how people are perceiving the brand. Based off of what I see online, I do think that the Patrick Ta brand is currently marketing more towards the mainstream. Their strategy seems more focused on a younger audience, which doesn't quite match the older traditional luxury crowd I mentioned earlier, contributing to all of these mixed opinions on if the brand is luxury or not. Luxury can also be quite mysterious or selling the fantasy of something, and I don't find that his current branding online aligns with selling the fantasy. It is safe to say that he is likely trying to create this luxury perception around his brand. So the true question is if the current brand image is aligning to the target audience he's trying to reach. I think there's definitely a discrepancy between how he's marketing his products versus who his target market could be and how they're actually perceiving the brand. And most importantly, what this audience can actually afford. A younger audience might still be at the start of their career, they may be in college, so they don't have a lot of extra money to spend on a $42 eyeshadow, versus the older audience that has a higher income who are shopping at Saks Fifth Avenue or Neiman Marcus. They have more money to spend on luxury goods. So for me, in terms of their current marketing and branding, I don't think they've fully tapped into the traditional luxury, but they may in the newer sense of what could be considered luxury. Again, I feel like it's so mixed that I can't feel confident if I would give the Patrick Ta brand a green flag, red flag, or beige flag. I'm going to give this, again, just keeping up with that common trend of the traditional sense, a red flag. Alright, so based on this list, I would overall say that in comparison to traditional luxury, his brand doesn't fully fit that image yet. But as I mentioned earlier, Patrick Ta may instead fit more into that new modern day luxury fantasy. And some people might actually prefer this as it's less stiff, more real, even more inclusive, and focus on makeup rather than that traditional image. But the only people that will know what audience they're targeting and which luxury fantasy they're trying to sell is Patrick Ta and his team. Okay, let's just dive into Patrick Ta's response to all of this backlash and controversy. Based off what I've seen, this response surprisingly had a positive reaction. I was not expecting that because I didn't get the same vibes off of this response.
Eyeshadows in these duos are not your normal eyeshadows. These are not a pressed formula. These are not a cream. These are what you call a slurry. What is so special about this formula to me is that this formula has no filler in it. This is a baked formula and you are getting 100% pearl. When you swatch this, I have yet to be able to find a pearl that looks like this, applies like this, and will stay like this when you put it onto your eyes. I wanted to pull out some other products that are out there on the market right now just to show you guys the pricing. So this is a fan favorite right now. This is $24 for 1.7 grams of product. And I don't want to say if this product has a filler or not, or a base, but with mine, you are getting 4 grams of 100% pearl. If you are under sunlight or any sort of even downward lighting from your home, this is how they look. Like, camera does not show how amazing these are in person. I wanted you guys to have a mirror when you were applying these. None of these single eyeshadows comes with a mirror. All of these things drive up the cost. As an artist, I want the quality of my products to be the best that you can get out there, and this is truly that. This eyeshadow will stand the test of time.
For me, I did feel this video felt more like a sales pitch for his product, where he listed features of the product and tried to justify the price. Again, from my perspective, we know that products usually cost more because of things like packaging or where they're made, but that doesn't really explain everything behind the high price. For example, the mirror and special ingredients might make it more expensive, but he's not fully transparent saying the profit percentage that he's making. Now, I don't expect expect Patrick Ta to be fully open about all of the costs, but I think that customers are smart and can easily see through buzzwords that make it harder to sell a high-priced luxury product. So I was really surprised to see that this TikTok video had a positive response, and that's simply just my perspective and what I usually see on the corner of the internet. But for this TikTok, it was different. People were praising Patrick Ta for his transparency and backing up his pricing. Influencers were backing up Patrick Ta and the pricing, even though they probably didn't pay for the product. People might have looked at it positively because he was just really showing that his pricing was competitive to other brands. I also want to address this comment in particular because I saw it a couple of times while researching for this video. They said something isn't overpriced just because you can't afford it, but that's the thing. Something isn't reasonably priced just because you're willing to pay for it. So take a water bottle, for example. At your local grocery store, it costs $1, but then you go to a theme park and it costs $3. Can you afford the $3? I'm guessing yes. So compared to what you're used to paying, most people would consider that overpriced. Now imagine the park claims it's $3 because it's the freshest, cleanest water from the most pristine rivers. That's marketing. At the end of the day, it's still water. It hydrates the same way, but the selling points make you curious enough to buy it. You've been sold to, and it worked. Just like you would criticize an influencer for their bias or association with the brand, we could also apply it to Patrick Ta's response. Patrick Ta is the face of his brand, so of course he's going to promote his product positively. It's his job to make his brand successful, to drive sales. So I wouldn't consider his response transparent. It's 100% pure marketing. Phrases like great value, 2 eyeshadows for $21, made in Italy, 100% pearl, high quality, unique, competitive pricing. These phrases sell the idea of luxury, but he obviously is not going to share his profit percentage or compare his product to affordable alternatives with similar formulas because it would simply discredit his product. What you're seeing is only half of the story and only a comparison conveniently to already high cost products with similar formulas. Now, I'm not arguing that the product isn't high quality and high quality isn't worth paying more for. It is worth paying a little bit more for, but there's that line to cross, but it's not unique by any means. And there are plenty of C beauty, K beauty, and indie brands that are just as high quality for a fraction of the cost. Again, this isn't about bashing Patrick Ta's response or even the product itself. It's about recognizing when you're being sold to, taking off the rose-colored glasses, and making informed purchasing decisions. And if you're buying out of curiosity or convenience or love for the product or even to support the brand, that's one thing and completely fine. But the idea of luxury itself doesn't hold much value. You're just being sold to. It's just marketing. And all in the same breath, you can love the product, you can enjoy the quality of the product, you can love the brand and the person behind the brand, but still think it's overpriced. People who are complaining about something being overpriced, it matters because they would love a piece of the product. They're complaining because they want it, not because they don't want to buy it. So from my perspective, it's not all coming from a place of hate, but I think some of it is also coming from a place of love. He could have gone 2 different routes with it. The first route is what he did. The second route is probably listening to the feedback and going back to the team to see if there's anything that they could do to make this price not even more reasonable, but still make a good profit while also showing that they're listening to feedback and listening to comments. But maybe that makes a brand seem less luxurious and exclusive. So again, from that direction, if he's trying to be a luxury brand, I can see why his response was the way that it was. But if he's trying to be a brand that listens to consumers, listens to feedback, then I think there could have been something else done. And when I say like something else done, I don't mean lower the price to be the same as the Urban Decay Moondust eyeshadows. I mean make it $39 instead of $42, just to show that they're listening and they're hearing and they understand. But again, Patrick Ta and his brand is in their right to price things the way that they want to. At the end of the day, shoppers and consumers are allowed to also complain about the price and push back about the price, because brands are going to price things as high as can be accepted. And that is why for overpriced makeup, I have vouched for myself to not buy it unless it's on a sale, or just not buy it at all. Because the more we accept these higher prices, the more brands are willing to push to see how far they can go.
If you don't want to drop $42 on an eyeshadow, this is for you. Here's a $14 option. It's very similar to one of the shades from the Patrick Ta duo We Need Better Lighting. I mean, look at the sparkle on both of the shades. It's called Skin of a Killer, and it's from an indie brand called Bella Beauty Bar.
First up is Glaminatrix Glistening Creations. Glaminatrix is an Australian indie brand, and they make some of my favorite eyeshadows. All of the shadows in the Glistening Creations line are around $9 and have a similar level of sparkle. This is the shade Skink, and it's what I'm wearing on my eyes right now. One thing to note with these types of shadows is the more you build them up, the more metallic they're going to be, and the more you buff them out, the sparklier they're going to get. Next, I want to talk about these shadows from Terra Moons. This is a brand that makes a lot of sparkly shadows. Most of them are duochrome and multichrome, which makes them pretty pricey, but these three are on the more affordable side, and just look at that sparkle. You also only need the tiniest amount of these. Now I want to talk about my loves, Cleona. These are some sparkly options on the more colorful side. Like Terra Moons, Cleona can be on the pricey side, but their glitter formula is typically less expensive. A lot of the eyeshadows come in at around $8 to $9. And this shade Trinket is what I have in my inner corner in Swoop. Next, I want to talk about a Sea Beauty brand, Juicy. Not all of their shadows have the same amount of sparkle, but these two have my stamp of approval. I buy these on YESSTYLE, and I usually wait for a sale when they're around $9. Lastly, I want to talk about the Moira Chroma Light shadows. These are a little less sparkly than the others, but they're also the most affordable at $6 each. These are some of the more neutral shades that I really enjoy. Also, when I say that they're less sparkly than the other shades, they're still sparkly, just not as much. And for $6, who am I to complain?
You're probably also wondering, if so many people are complaining about this, why did the products still sell out? Well, according to his TikTok comments, additionally, the products sold out during the Sephora sale, where the 20% discount made the price of the duos $33.60 instead of the full price. However, I do want to know, on his website, he didn't have a sale and it did not sell out. And as we know, controversy drives sales. So I actually think this was really great for the brand. Was it great in terms of making him seem more exclusive and luxurious? I don't think so. Was the $42 a mistake for Patrick Ta's brand? I fear not. I actually think it worked in their favor. So whether or not it's overpriced, it worked in their favor because it brought buzz around the brand. Ultimately, this isn't just about the Patrick Ta's eyeshadow duos for me. The whole reason why I even made this video is because I feel like it's about how people's expectations are changing when it comes to price. Shoppers are no longer just accepting these high prices, including myself. We are questioning them. The price of the product isn't just a number, it's influenced by our income, age, perception of value, luxury, the economy, and everything else. People are shifting their shopping mindset, and they are no longer willing to buy something at a higher cost just because it's arguably higher quality when there are alternatives out there. The space is so competitive that you don't need to be paying $42 for 2 eyeshadows. You can actually find another brand with a similar formula and maybe even just as beautiful packaging for lower cost. So it's really difficult with the competition now to even justify a luxury brand and justify a prestige price. For some, Patrick Ta's duos might feel like a new level of luxury that makes the higher price worth it, but for others, paying $42 for just 2 eyeshadows has stood out beyond high quality or nice packaging. And as the beauty industry moves forward, I think that it will be interesting to see how brands will adjust to more thoughtful and price conscious shoppers. Will they be able to continue justifying luxury and high quality when there's so much competition out there? And that leads us to the end of today's video. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below, what do you consider luxury, and does Patrick Ta fall under that umbrella? Or do you think luxury is simply just a marketing scam? With that, I will see you in the comments. Thank you all for watching my first sort of video essay. I did write a script and I did have to read off of a screen, so we're working on that. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Let me know if there are any more controversies or beauty industry trend conversations you want me to deep dive into. I spent a lot of hours working on this video, so I would really love and appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new to my channel, and as always, happy holidays. I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye!